After diving into the world of 70s Hollywood for my last video, I inevitably had a lot of run-ins with a certain 1972 masterpiece by Francis Ford Coppola. Having not seen The Godfather since middle school, my memory of the details are fuzzy, only really remembering the scenes that would stand out to a middle school boy. I knew I was due for a rewatch, and boy am I glad I did sit down and rewatch it because, yeah, it's a pretty good movie. So good, in fact, that I watched it 2 nights in a row, and one sequence in particular stood out to me both times. When it comes to movies, a sequence is defined as a series of scenes that form a distinct narrative unit. And for this video, I'm going to be talking about Michael Corleone's revenge plot against Sollozzo and McCluskey. Taking place an hour and 10 minutes into the nearly 3-hour epic, the sequence lasts around 20 minutes and features 3 distinct scenes. Michael hatching his plot, the preparations for the meeting, and then the meeting itself. Let's start at the beginning. We'll call this first scene the setup. Michael, still very much the outsider of the family at this point, is showing his first signs of assimilating to the crime culture, craving revenge on Police Chief McCluskey and Virgil Sollozzo for their involvement in the assassination attempt on Vito. As Michael plans his revenge plot, director Francis Ford Coppola holds on him for well over a minute, slowly and steadily zooming in, allowing Pacino to effortlessly monologue. Stiff as a board, Pacino acts more with his eyes than his body, but more on that later. With everyone watching and listening to him, the tension steadily rises until it reaches the breaking point with the following string of lines.
But if Clemenza can figure a way to have a weapon planted there for me, then I'll kill them both.
With part 2 of our 3-part sequence, we sit in as the Corleone family walks Michael through just what he'll need to do to carry out the murders, step by step. With the lighting, the mess of the dinner table, and the less formal costuming, we get a sense of calm before the storm. Our characters are more relaxed than we found them to be in other scenes, even with the subject at hand. This movie is great at placing the camera somewhere and letting it rest for minutes at a time, leaving viewers feeling like a fly on the wall, like we're hearing something that we aren't supposed to be hearing. This is the angle that Coppola continually cuts back to for extended periods of time, characters often walking in and out of the room. Just like the last scene, this one is all about building tension, and where many lesser filmmakers would rely on their score to raise the suspense, Coppola uses the uncomfortable quiet to his advantage. The scene concludes with Michael saying his goodbyes, knowing he won't be seeing his family for at least a year after carrying out the killings. The table has been masterfully set, and now it's time for the main course. The drive sets the stage with even more contention and untrustworthiness, ultimately leading to the climactic scene in Louis' restaurant. Michael and Sollozzo have a good chunk of their conversation in Italian, but this time without the subtitles we've come to expect. Coppola later explained that the actors were simply talking too fast to properly subtitle the conversation and that it didn't hold much relevance, but as an audience member, something about being left in the dark as to what the characters are saying adds another layer of mystery and suspense to the already thrilling scene. Eventually, Michael makes his way to the bathroom to find the gun that's been planted for him. Instead of immediately finding the gun, he struggles for a moment, leaving audiences wondering if the gun is even there, a thought that is all the more heightened when we think back to Sonny's insistence on the gun being planted by someone trustworthy.
Listen, I want somebody good, and I mean very good, to plant that gun. I don't want my brother coming out of that toilet with just his dick in his hands, all right?
The doors of the bathroom stalls are also framed to look short in comparison to the door to the bathroom, leaving Michael vulnerable if one of his dinner mates were to barge in. With the gun secured, Michael rejoins the table, the inevitable bound to happen at any second now. Once again, Pacino brilliantly acts with his eyes, constantly darting from one thing to the next, proving his inexperience in the crime world. To come back to the idea of scenes lacking a score, this one does too, but it substitutes it for the grinding of a nearby train. The harsh, grating, consistently getting louder and louder creates an uneasy, overbearing tone, but unlike a piece of music, it also adds to the texture of the city and the restaurant. As Michael shoots both of the men, the sound stops, leaving room for the gunshots and not much else. Quickly making his way out, he remembers to drop the gun at his side, and now, only after the scene unraveled itself, does the score break through. The fact that this is just one climax in a film full of amazing plot lines, it's no wonder that The Godfather is considered one of, if not the best movie of all time. The brilliant direction and employment of suspense has undoubtedly inspired directors that came after. As I watched this sequence, particularly the climactic third scene, I couldn't help but think of the tavern scene in Inglourious Basterds or the coin toss from No Country for Old Men. When a talented young director is united with a brilliant cast of actors and an airtight script, the product will be something amazing, and if any film proves that, then it's The Godfather. Let me know in the comments what other types of videos you'd like to see from me, and be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching.